Pardon my fork.
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 Pardon my fork from Japan.
Pardon my fork.
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 This week, we're talking food sport and food competition. We've got a few of the best competitors around talking about how they got started and strategies for making it all the way to the big show. You'll hear all that and more today on Pardon My Fork. Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Pardon My Fork. Yes, this is the new and improved. Yeah, I guess improved. We're doing a few different things here. I want to welcome you guys to the show. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you up front for telling a friend about this show. I know you're having a good time. We're having a real good time. And you spreading that good word, spreading that love is really what keeps us afloat. And we really, really do appreciate that. We've got some really good stuff coming up for the show, some changes that we're making. The new intro, let me know what you guys think about it. It was a collaborative effort. I reached out to my friends and family and said, hey, if you can help me out, I need some pieces here. And they came together. You guys came together and sent me a ton of audio files saying, pardon my fork. And it was heartwarming. I mean, I can say that honestly. It was touching to me that so many people were able to reach out and do that for me. It made me feel like I'm a part of this community. And, I just appreciate that very much. So thank you guys. And before we get too far into it, I've got a few other people I'd like to thank. First and foremost is Gem City Fine Foods. They helped us get to the WFC. They are working with us to bring you guys absolutely the best gluten-free and nut-free desserts, and in some cases, even vegan desserts. You've got to go and check them out. GemCityFineFoods.com. They have been giving away 25% left and right on their site for us, using the code WFC25. I think that's done for the time being, but I'm sure we're going to be getting more promo codes from them. And I want to thank them very much for their support of this show. Also, Pfluger's Bacon. I can't say enough good things about these guys. JC Pfluger, he sent us out some bacon last minute to our Airbnb when we were at the WFC. That bacon just crushed, you guys. It was so good. We used it in the bacon category. We used it in the seafood category. And of course, we used it in all of our cooking demos that we did over at the Innovative Group booth. And everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. The sugar-free bacon was a particular hit. It was so good. I know it's one of my personal favorites. And we just want to thank those guys so much for doing that. Thank them for the support. Go and check them out. Pflugers.com is where you're going to be able to get their bacon. And let's not sleep on his line of rubs as well. jchristopher.co is where you can find the J. Christopher Co. rubs. He's got his basic rub. He's got his hot rub. They both use one of my new favorite ingredients, sumac. It is so good. You have got to try this stuff. You will not go back. Pflugers.com. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, it is my favorite fabricator. He built my smoker trailer. He's built a lot of barbecues for me, you guys. So whether you're looking for ugly drum smokers, a stationary smoker, cabinet, drum, trailer, it really doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, if you've got a fabrication project that you need done, this guy can probably do it. He is a wizard with a MIG gun. GBX Custom Cookers. Check them out on Facebook. It's just going to be facebook.com/GBX Custom Cookers. You'll be very impressed with what you see. If you do need a custom cooker, you're looking for a brand new Santa Maria grill, you want something that is mobile, you want something that is stationary, you've got to check them out. GBX Custom Cookers. All right, Corey Ann is going to be joining me here real soon. We're going to sit down and have a quick conversation with Hiram Quintana. Very well known. The more I talk to this guy, the more connections I realize he has. But you'll be hearing from him. You'll hear all about that in just a couple of minutes. So part of this new format, you guys, is we're doing themed weeks, okay? Every week is going to be some new ingredient, some new product, something that we love cooking with, something that's seasonal, especially to the Pacific Northwest. I want to start bringing a more regional Oregon flavor to the show. Not that we don't love all of you listeners that are from across the board, across the pond even. We really just like what we grow here in Oregon. And I want to take a little bit of a spin on that. We're going to take part of this year to see how that works out. I think you guys will really enjoy it for sure. But today's topic is going to be food sport, food competition. We're talking about what it's like to do it, how you can get involved, talking to some of the best people in the field, not just in the World Food Championships, but in food, sport, and cooking competition just across the nation and in general. There are a lot of avenues that you can use to get there. There's the Taste of America, of course. There's a lot of magazine and online website competitions that you can go through. The possibilities really are endless, and there are a lot of roads to get yourself to the big show, the big competition at the end of the year. But, getting there is really no different for you than it's going to be for anybody else. You have to do these competitions. You have to see what you can do with them. You have to cook your heart out, really put your heart and soul into whatever it is that you're making. And that spirit is what's going to get you not just, to the top when you do go all the way to the WFC, but it's what you need to compete in these smaller regional categories. And the thing that I love about food sport and food competition is all roads lead there. It doesn't have to be something that's done online. It can be a local there are a lot of local competitions actually that have what's called a golden ticket to these. There are a lot of local competitions that can help get you into the Culinary Fight Club. One of my favorites to talk about recently was that Sutter Home burger competition. It was $25,000. $25,000. I could not believe how much that thing was worth. And of course, that's going to draw a huge number of people, but it may not be a chef that wins. It may just be a home cook. It may just be a foodie. There's definitely first-time people. When we were at the World Food Champs, I had a chance to do a live show up on stage, and we talked to Anna Jones. She was a first-time competitor at the WFC and had gone to the top 10. And that is just an example of when you bring a fresh set of eyes into something, you really can just pour everything you have into it and let that talent shine. All right, Corianne's getting sat down and mic'd up. We got Hiram on the phone. Well, I'm excited to have our guest on today because we're talking about food sport and food competition. That is the topic of the week, right, hon?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We just got back from the World Food Championship.
We did, and Hiram is one of the, I think, winningest people, or at least the person that's on the majority of the winning teams that I've seen in food sport the last couple of years. Hiram, how are you doing, man?
Pretty good. How you doing today?
Doing fantastic, buddy. Thank you for coming on. And I got to tell you, when someone's a professional gambler, that basically means that they're winning 51% of the time. Your hit rate seems to be a lot higher than that when it comes to food sport.
Well, it's just surrounding yourself with the right people. You know what I mean? It's what it's all about. It's basically a calculated science to going in and approaching it.
What do you do to kind of prepare for the competition? I mean, everything is a factor, right? The region, the local foods, the way flavors have changed in whatever location you're in, right? It all becomes a factor.
It's all about the locality and how you resource. There's a lot of ingredients in the area that would really, really help any competitor. From the judging, you're going to think about the judging a little bit. You think about everybody's local, everybody's palate is more refined to that region. So what I would suggest is like getting into the region, into the local cuisine, try a few restaurants, see what's going on. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying going to the top restaurants that you could go to in the area. I mean, you need to find those shacks. You know what I mean? Those little mom and pop places, because that's more than likely that a big majority of people are going to be eating.
Right.
So how did you prepare for Dallas? What did you guys do? Where did you eat so we know to go next year?
Well, I went with, it's a funny story because I got down there a couple of days ahead of time. And my brother Julio, he lives right there in Dallas. right outside of Dallas. And he's a post office worker and stuff. So I jumped on the actual truck to do a post office route, to just kind of look around and kind of see around the area. And we actually stopped at a few, looking for those roadside barbecue places and stuff like that, and cool little places that you usually wouldn't find in mainstream Dallas or anywhere like that. Those are the places that I was basically going to, so stuff like that.
Okay, I see. So, I mean, that seems like something that is pretty serious. That sounds like someone that's taking the competition aspect very seriously. And before we get too far into it, I just wanted to kind of let people have that preface to know exactly what type of competitor you were. But I do want to talk a little bit about your background, because you're not from the Dallas area. You weren't from Orange Beach, Alabama in years previous. Tell us about yourself and what started your food journey.
Food journey started out in Philadelphia. I'm born and raised in in the Port Richmond area and West Kensington area in Philadelphia as a kid. And getting out of there probably about the age of 17, 18 was when I first jumped into the restaurant business, about 30 years ago, basically. And that's basically started in an Aramark dining service, just one of those regular cafeterias, and came in, fighting, kicking and screaming, because moved out of Philadelphia and to go into the Philadelphia suburbs, which was in Royersford area. So the transitioning between living in the inner city and getting out and just, getting into work and stuff, that's where my culinary career started. So I based it out of Philadelphia, worked at restaurants like the Moshulu, Bookbinders, La Familia, which are at the time the top places in Philadelphia. They were Lebec Finn and La Familia were going neck to neck all the time for that top spot in Philly at the time, and that was years ago. So basically, just growing up and raising on the ranks. That's the more you raise, the more passion you kind of acquire, and that's basically where it all started for me, and just became a sponge to basically not just learn one thing, but to learn it all. So.
I love that, man. I talk about it on the show all the time, but, Mike Rowe has a fantastic saying: you can't always follow your passion, but you can always bring it with you. Mm-hmm. And that sounds like what you're doing with everything that you do, which is what makes you a fearsome food sport competitor, right?
It's the intensity of it. It's passion can be found in anything you do. That's first and foremost. It doesn't have to be cooking. It doesn't, it could be, whether it's art, whether it's concrete work. Passion is finding yourself happy with what you're doing. And then, that kind of makes it easier, because if you're happy doing what you're doing, you're just going to fall in love a lot quicker. And that's where passion is going. Passion isn't given. It's not taught. You just have to take it. You know what I mean? You have to take it for yourself and make it your own. So that's the strive. That's when you're going to strive for that greatness. You have to strive for that passion and become good at it, and flawless too. At the same time, you have to execute.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of execute, how did you do at the World Food Championship? How did your teams do?
Well, we had I cooked with 5 teams total. Spent a total of 10 hours in the arena, which was fun. That's 10 hours under that clock. There's nothing more exhilarating in 2 days. But Doug Kyles from Ribs Within, I cooked with him in burger. I think we placed pretty high on that one, 26. Now, that's another example of how things change, because last year in Alabama, a similar burger got a second place, right? So you move something similar from region to region, that's what happens. You know what I mean? And they're not going to like it in certain places or stuff like that. So it's not saying that you should change your style. I'm just saying that you should, really research your region and change your style to adjust into where the region goes. You know what I mean? You can do the same thing, adjust a couple things. But yeah, so the burger was pretty high up there, and I think it was 26, which out of 50, it was halfway mid-pack. And then bacon category, I think we were in 22nd. That was with Kelly. He's from Alabama. Now, that was a funny story, because I literally 12 hours before the competition started is when he asked me to cook with him. That he didn't, his sous chefs had fell through and stuff like that. So I basically had no preparation time. Just the time that we spent in front of the arena to get in is when he could run down the list. So that's the fun part and the challenging part, to jumping in with different competitors. You know, it's a different intensity. They're from all over the nation, and that's a better way to travel to Alabama, is to cook with an Alabama chef and figure out what his style and what his input is. So I take that all, and I learned from that experience. And we did pretty good. You know, he had some solid cooks. I actually, he brought a little bit of Asian fusion to the bacon dish. Now, would I have done something differently? Possibly. But after seeing the execution of this dish between both of us, I was really, really happy with the turn-in which was just basically a dry ramen that had this earthy bacon taste to it. He added some of the black garlic into the pasta itself with the fine julienne vegetables, and it was really nice. But one thing that that really caught me there is that this is Texas, right? So it's go big or go home. I think that the Asian fusion was nice, but I think that a little bit more bold flavors. My recommendation to him would have been to go more bold with the flavors, and, you know, make the bacon be the highlight. If you're going to do a ramen dish, that's exactly what it is. It's a ramen dish with a bacon accompaniment. It's a bacon competition, so you have to make the bacon the star of the show. So I think that we had some learning experiences with that and stuff like that, and he took some good advice from me, and I took some good advice from him, and, you know, still, you know, right above the top of the pack. But then we jumped into with Kristen into the recipe category, which is really, really, really fun to represent those guys. And it was a team, it was in Cookville, right, from Mike McLeod's hometown. So, yeah, Jay Albright and his crew, I was able to jump in with Kristen again with another 24-hour notice. And, you know, we executed, you know, some nice stuff. We got us 9th place. And that was a pretty nice score. And what she turned in with the empanadas, I wouldn't have turned in anything different. That dish was hit solid. And she did a great job also as well. And again, just learning these guys and just kind of moving along and progressing. And then I was able to jump into steak also as well, which was hosted by the SCA, Steak Cook-Off Association. And then you know, there's a group of guys, 50 guys back there cooking a one steak turn-in, and that's exactly what it is in the SCA. They take the steak serious, the protein serious. There's no sides, no nothing, just one execution with a point system on a steak. It's from 7 to 9, and you know, just to have to nail a perfect consistency on that steak flavor and everything like that to gain all the scores on that. So this is pretty intense. I would say this right now, just like the barbecue world, there's not a lot of chefs that are just going to go in the kitchen to one of these competitions and think that they're going to levy up to some of these guys. Let's put it that way, right? Because you have to acquire the palate also as well. You're preparing for one bite. The judges are only going to take one bite of the steak and check the consistency one time. And you got to think about your walk time and everything like that. But here's the trick. With the World Food Championships, the top 10 is the eat mythology. So basically, you have to put that into 10 sampling portions, right?
Oh, goodness.
And you have to execute appearance and taste that. So, you know what I mean? So everything comes into play, and that's where the line is, you know, to be able to be hybrid like myself and a lot of other chefs, to cross over at a world-class level to these different sanctioning groups. You can get together with some of these chefs and then cross over with them and kind of give them the experience.
Nice.
and let them feel what food sport is to get in that arena. And trust me, once they feel it one time, they're going to want it all the time. So that's only going to build food sport in general. I think that was genius what the Steak Cook-Off did there. But I cooked with Robert Ewing, and we ended up 9th. It was a tomahawk from Hassel Cattle Company that we were cooking. Beautiful. I think they were like 3 pounds each. They were ridiculously beautiful. They were really nice. Yeah, so we did some nice components. And again, I would like every single turn-in that we had this week, there was a total of 10 trays that I did with the teams. And I was happy with every single one. And this one particularly was one of my favorites with the black garlic sweet potato and duck confit. The steak, it was just all together. It was just all rolling together. And I was like, again, that dish was completely perfect. But there was a little scenario there, right? At the last, so I won't start plating up to the last, I'm going to say with hot components, 45 seconds to maybe 30 seconds. I can time a plate up of a whole tray designed in my head already within 15 seconds. I give myself a 15-second leeway. Basically, that's why I go 45, 30, and 15. Last 15 seconds, I should be looking at the tray then, right? So I did that. I got down to the 15 seconds, and I was looking at the tray, and I gave them the hands up. They picked up the trays and started to go. And as soon as they picked up the trays, I looked down on the table. It was a compound butter. It was a challenge compound butter, like secret ingredient. So I grabbed that compound butter and literally started hauling ass behind them as they were walking. And I was garnishing the compound butter with everything going towards the thing. Exactly at 2 seconds, we dropped the trays and I was done with the thing. I was like, whoa, that was pretty intense.
Goodness. Oh, wow. So stressful. Hey, Hiram, for listeners that don't know, can you explain what the recipe category is at the World Food Championship?
Well, every year they change it up. Each category is infused differently with a different beautiful product that they're using, from whether it's Walmart, whether it's everything. And this year's category, this recipe changes every year, so it's a chef's recipe. So they're going to give you one base ingredient, and you're basically going to have to input the same way that they usually do it for every event, but it's all about the execution on the recipe. And, you got 50 other people using the same ingredient. So whoever writes the best recipe for that ingredient basically wins. That's the recipe category.
What was the special ingredient this year?
This year in recipe, well, I was jumping around, so I'm probably going to get them confused a little bit. I don't have the specifics in that category, but I'm pretty sure it was CBD. Here.
Okay, yeah. So we heard a lot about this.
Yeah, so we did the empanadas, and the empanadas, her shells, the masa itself was infused with CBD flour. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Pretty interesting.
So how did the chef that you worked with, did she choose to highlight the CBD flavor, mask it, blend it in with other things? Because that's for people that have not tried CBD products, there is a little bit of an herby funk to it. So how'd she embrace that flavor?
Well, I think she did a good job by doing it in the empanada shell. And after we cooked it in with the flour, it was pretty solid. You couldn't even notice the difference in the taste at all, basically at all, period. Because once you have that earthiness of the sweet potatoes, that she had the filling inside of the empanada itself, I think that flavor, the sweetness of the inside of the flavor just kind of popped out, and just whatever it had a little bit of, it's just going to go away once you eat the sweetness of the sweet potato itself. So that was a good mask up too.
We've talked to other chefs about the recipe category, and they're like, so they're wanting to mask a product and not be able to taste it. That's a little bit of a turning the contest on its head, because in the past, you really want to taste the secret ingredient or the main ingredient. But with CBD products, it was the opposite. Mask it in a really great recipe as a way to show consumers that you can put CBD products into any kind of recipe, not going to interrupt the flavors, not going to contradict any of the main ingredients that they're used to cooking with, but still get the health benefits of the CBD. Did you find out what some of your other competitors did to overcome the flavor?
Well, one thing, I think that a majority of these guys, my train of thought as a food sport competitor is that everybody would know when they hand you something like CBD, it would basically be like handing somebody vitamin A, because it's a health value. So really, you don't even want to play with the flavor itself, with the taste of it at all. Like, nobody loves the taste of it, but everybody loves what it does for you, for your body and nutrition wise, right? So, so you want to mask it because it doesn't taste good. You know what I mean? And the judges would understand, if they're judging this category, I think they would be versed to understand that it's a health value infused product, not a taste value infused product. It's how creative you can be.
It's that joke that I use almost every episode where when you're on Chopped and toothpaste is in the basket,
Yeah.
you know,
Just brush your teeth and then cook.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes you never know.
Yeah. It's like you never know.
Awesome. So of all the categories that you cooked in this year, which was your favorite?
The barbecue. The barbecue.
Nice.
yeah, you're the barbecue. That's
Yeah.
where you lean, right?
Yeah, that's, you know what, I just like riding the fence. You know what I mean? I just like going to both sides just as much. But the barbecue that's become my passion. The last 2.5, 3 years, I've kind of migrated over into the barbecue world and met so many amazing people. And I think that what attracts me the most about barbecue is the camaraderie and the family likeness of it. You know, a lot of the competition arena chefs are in their respected kitchens and in their respected zones. So we don't have a lot of communication on a face-to-face level. It would be something social media, whereas these barbecue guys sometimes see each other like 25 weekends out of the year or something like that. And
That's true. Yep.
the camaraderie of it and the way everybody helps each other. You know what I mean? There's no competition. There's no competition, and everybody congratulates each other and celebrates with each other. It's just a big family. I think that I needed that in this point in my life, in my culinary career. I've been in every step. I think that's the one step that that is the closeout. You know what I mean? To work on myself and family and learn how to distribute information as well as receive it. So
I really like that.
And I'm trying to remember when I was up with Mike McDermott on stage, we were emceeing the barbecue results. Gosh, somebody had, I think they said that he had like 63 or 62 calls for the year. And it was like, so wait a minute, you're doing more competitions than there are weekends in the year?
Yeah. No, well,
Yeah.
See, in barbecue, you can get 2 or 3 calls in a week because you have the respected categories. You have all the categories. So it's like the numbers game at that point. So it's the top average score out of all 4 categories is who wins the overall grand championships. So,
Right.
So let's break it down. What is a call for our listeners that are not aware of competitive barbecue scoring?
all right.
Oh, and actually, Hiram, I'm just going to slide in here real quick. I didn't realize how this whole thing worked with the tickets, and I didn't know the whole thing was like double blind.
Yeah, definitely. And, so the call system, right? There's a walk basically, and then there's a call. Okay. So the call starts first is basically they call the top 10. Some contests, they'll ask the top 5 to walk and get a prize. That's a walk. So in each category, there's chicken, pork ribs, pork, and brisket. So each category, there's a top 10, and then there's a top 5, and then there's a reserve grand champion and a champion for each category. Second place. The top place is the one that takes the first prize there, right? So when you get if you get a call, that's like 9th place, 7th place, 8th place, it's still respectable because sometimes there's 63, 70, up to 600 teams. You know what I mean? So it's quite a feat to get, especially with the competition. Like this is the one arena where the top barbecue guys, they don't hide behind a TV screen. They're right there kicking ass in the competition tour the whole time. You know what I mean? So you have to deal with these guys on a week-to-week basis. So to get a call in between some of the fierce competitors there are in the world, that's pretty cool, especially the state championships and stuff and the world championships. So that's what it is.
And then typically, I mean, a person, I noticed this at the World Food Championships. Let me preface it that way. There were, I think, 2 people that got calls or walks in every category. And then it comes down to total points. And I believe Johnny Trigg took grand champion at the WFC, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Right.
That was a long day.
Yeah. The top 5 at the top 10 where I cooked with Lee. Lee from Texas, Austin, Texas, I believe. He's the one I think that got the 63 calls in 1 year. I think he won 52% of his content, reserved or grand champion in everything that he went to last year. So
that is crazy. I mean, you're really in the money at that point.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of prize money. You know what I mean? And that's when you take it serious. That's when barbecue becomes like, this guy's legendary. You know what I mean? He's been like that. He won the IBCA portion of it. So there was two. There was a KCBS and then IBA, and then the top 5 and 5 went head to head against each other in the final top 10. And I cooked with Lee, actually. And it was probably one of the most fun cooks that I've ever done. It was just the barbecue guys, you know what I mean? Everybody had their components, you know, already set up into play and stuff like that. And I went for the execution part, just basically do the plate up and, you know, help with the components, put the components together on the dish. And working with, for the first time ever, I've just met these guys, and like, it was just so much fun. It was just a blast. And the cool part about it is that you can go outside of the arena and use any heating element to cook, right? So I'm pretty sure people probably went back to their setups and did a SCA cook on their steak or something like that because it was a hassle steak. We used the beefer. We went with the beefer, and we, you know, the top 5 was 1.3 points away from the first place. That's how close the title race was. We ended up 5th, but we were 1.3 or something like that, and we all ended up above the 94.2 range on the scoring. So it was high up, and there was a lot of good steaks, man. It was Rio Valley was in there, and there was a lot of people, and that was intense. That was fun. That was pretty cool. That was my favorite.
Well, Hiram, I mean, this has just been it's been very enlightening. Let me put it that way. We have time for one more question, and I want your opinion on the best way for a person to get into food sport or food competition. Someone who has never done it before, but they're hearing about us, you know, doing all this stuff at the big show, but they're wondering, how do I even get involved at the lowest level? What are your recommendations for folks like that? My recommendations is just to go to the World Food Championships website, right? And right there, they post multiple competitions throughout the whole world where you could have a local qualifier. So my recommendation is to be online and watch out, you know, your local chefs that are competing and stuff like that, and research a little bit what they're doing to get to that point and where they're competing and stuff. Because most of these competitions is a buy-in value. It's just like walking up to the poker table and dropping $300. Like you really, really have to be prepared to whatever outcome. So you just have to get started. You know, just stop thinking about it and just go to the World Food Championship website, look up the hashtag Foodsport, because you could do that, put that on your search engine in Facebook, and you could see all the different food sport area things that are happening right now, all through one hashtag, all listed right there. Just hit your region, find out what that local chili cook-off or chicken cook-off is at this qualifier, and get in there. Oh, yeah. Nice. So, yeah, I mean, really, there are a lot of roads that all lead to this end goal. It's just about finding how to do it and then doing it, right? Yeah, just stay on top of it, find where and get there. You know what I mean? Find out where and then throw your hat in. That's basically all it takes. You just levy it up. It's, you know, go in the first time. If you get your head kicked around a little bit, just regroup. Don't take it personal. Regroup. Find out what you did different and what you can do differently, because you're just going to learn from these guys. So even if you go in for the first time, there's so much information that you're going to learn out of that first time that then you can continue on and just kind of, you know what I mean? Know your role, like stay in your respected categories. And if you could veer off a little bit, veer off, but get into one thing. Because if you want to be the best of the world at something, you have to stay with one product and one thing at that point. So just prepare. That's a fact, man.
Great advice.
Hey, thank you so much for talking to us. We're going to have links to all of Hiram's social media and your website and everything underneath of this episode on pardonmyfork.com. Hiram, once again, thanks so much for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
And there he goes. That was a great conversation. Hun, thanks for sitting in. I appreciate you. And I got one more for you guys. It's actually something that I recorded while I was at the WFC. I got a chance to sit down and talk to David and Danny from Alabama Coasting, and those guys were just an absolute hoot. They let us use their booth space when we needed to do some recordings. They gave us some sausages for some of our demos that we were doing. I mean, just really, really friendly friendly neighbors. You know what I mean? They were there, and it was really nice being able to have a friendly face that close. Of course, they've worked pretty closely with Mark Conway in the past over at the Family Meal podcast, and I look forward to working with those guys in the future. But we did sit down. We had a conversation about Foodsport, kind of what it means to them. They're working with Team Puerto Rico, and just what it's all about with those guys. So I'm going to go ahead and cue this up now, and we'll see you on the back end of that. Gentlemen, David and Danny from Alabama Coasting, how you doing, guys?
We are doing great.
I'm so glad that I got a chance to sit down and talk to you. You guys both have made appearances on my live streams and my cooking demos all week long, which of course I appreciate. And not only that, but I mean, just Team Alabama. Wow, you guys. I mean, you have just been sweeping up.
We've had some good results. And our friends from Puerto Rico who are a little disappointed at their results, we've told them, this is our third year having a team. Mm-hmm. So we've been working for 3 years, and really what we've really done as well is coached our competitors a little bit into what to expect and how to perform. Don't get too chefy. Make sure that your ingredients that you want to shine, and execute.
Make sure you open your competitor's guide and read the rules.
Yes.
That's one of the issues that we have is like we get questions about, well, did you read the rules? And did you see what the WFC folks are asking you to do?
Okay. So what about the judging? Have you guys you guys have all gone through the EAT-X program, right?
Correct. Yeah. We actually are certified to instructors as well.
Right.
And that's one of the things we also encourage them to spend some time with. Many of them have been through the program that we've done. So they've been through the certification class. So they understand what the judges are looking for. Mm-hmm. And I tell them every point matters. You think 15%, an appearance score at 15% isn't important, but that's every point matters.
Right. I think that was your point, Danny,
yeah,
right?
So we had a lot of guys that came over from barbecue. So they're used to kind of the way that KCBS does their turn-ins and that type stuff. And we had to explain to them, it's not about turning in a styrofoam box. It's about turning in a presentation score in a dish and a complete dish that the judges can taste what you tell them you're going to taste. And that's the other part to it, is making sure that you describe what you want the judges. If it's, if it's a bacon cheeseburger, darn sure have the bacon as a part of your dish, Mm-hmm. And so we work with them on describing their dish and executing what they have described, so that the judges know what they're looking for when they're sitting down at the table.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've also this year, we've got some seasoned competitors. 7 of our 21 teams that showed up are not only had they competed in World Food Championship before, but they've finished well in one category or another, or, close to top 10 or whatever. So having that experience is part of it. And we've got 9 people that made it past the first round. And now we'll see tonight, though. I think 4 of them are announced tonight. So nothing matters until tomorrow when we get that top 10. We need to have one person, at least one team from Alabama, going to Indianapolis this year for the top 10.
Right, for sure. It's like a Schrodinger's trophy here. You both have it and don't have it until you hear the scores.
Correct.
So the other thing, and David touched on it, about the team side of it is we're really here to support the team. We've got these seasoned competitors, but we've also got people who've never competed before, who've never even been in full-blown competitions before. And so that's really what our team is about, is making sure that when they get out here to Dallas, there's a home port, there's a place that they can stage up and talk to people and find out if they're missing some ingredients or something, or want to bounce some ideas off of them and that type of stuff. They can have a place to go. But we had a high school team that was out here competing, and they had a blast and a learning experience, and they did very well. It was in seafood, which is a tough category, and they were 10 points away from first place. Now, it is a tough category, and 10 points is a lot, mm-hmm. But when you're talking about high school kids competing in a very competitive category, they were very pleased with the results. They had a big time. They got to talk to a lot of folks. They Lou really had the opportunity to pad their resume, because this is something that when you start looking at we competed in the World Food Championships, you put that on your resume as a high school, 16, 17-year-old high school kid. That's pretty cool.
Oh man, that's incredible. I wish I had something like that when I was in high school,
Yeah. And again, these kids also, it was an opportunity for them to travel, because, they didn't, that's a privilege they haven't had. So the fact that they got to come out to Dallas, they did some of the tour stuff, and got to do that, which is not an opportunity they had before either. So that was good too.
Right.
We also have gave them the chance to volunteer. They helped at Komodo Joe Grills and did a few little things in our tent, helped us. And so it's just, again, it was an opportunity to give them a full experience. And we actually even we did a little Spoonie radio with them yesterday.
Nice.
And did a chance for them to do an interview, and all these things are great experiences, and they'll go back a little bit better prepared for the next thing that comes their way.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of prepared, I mean, of course, you guys are Team Alabama. Last year, the last 3 years have all been in Orange Beach, Alabama. Now we're in Dallas. There are a lot of people talking about how, their scores have not reflected what they thought they would. There's been a few upsets, a few turnovers, especially with the top 10 lists, and a lot of people who are feeling like things that they were cooking in Alabama that are just not hitting the palate of Dallas, Texas. Have you guys encountered any of that with your teams?
We haven't with that spin on it. It's interesting, and it would be interesting to know the home addresses for the judges, because a lot of these judges come. I mean, we've got half a dozen judges that came from Alabama that we know of.
Sure.
So they travel the circuit much like the KCBS judges. But it'd be interesting to know the home addresses. I don't know that there's a huge Dallas or a huge Texas presence in the judging pool. But the scores and after the top 10, we'll see, because the top 10 judges are typically veteran judges. And so we'll kind of see when we find these top 10 scores, if there's a difference, if there's a significant difference. But yeah, there was stuff that was happening. Some of our competitors that didn't make it, were surprised.
Yeah.
And then there was Jackie Seavey, the grand champion, who won with Chile last year, came in 5th this year in Chile. Now she still qualified, but she came in 5th the first round. So it's the interesting dynamic. And I hadn't really thought much about the location change, the geography change, but so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out after the fact.
I will, without disparaging Dallas at all, because I think this is going to be a great home for the World Food Championship. Being from Team Alabama and having our sponsors from Alabama Tourism, some other folks that we have, it is a little bit prideful to have folks stop by and say, "Man, we wish we were still in Orange Beach, and we love Alabama." So that's a nice sentiment to have folks say, but the facilities here, and Mike McLeod and his crowd, they've done a good job pulling this stuff together. Certainly, the place is packed, and so we think Dallas is going to be a good home for World Food Championships for at least the next couple of years. I think that's what the plan is. And so we look forward to coming back, and we're not through with Dallas yet. Oh, no, yeah. This whole thing, it's a traveling circus, really, because you see the tents and you see the booths and you see the bands. And I mean, it's just this huge thing. And it really, now I got to get out to something that you guys are a part of, the Caribbean Food Championships. How is that going? How long have you been doing that? This is just their first year in the Caribbean Food Championships. Mm-hmm. We got involved because the organizers came up out to Mobile and took one of our certification classes for judging, and then pitched in. We were a sounding board for them and for some of their ideas. The Hurricane Maria messed them up in their first year, so they weren't able to compete last year, but in March of this past year was their first championship. Now, the guys are longtime barbecue organizers, so this was their first effort at doing the World Food Championship, and it went well. So we're looking forward again next year. It'll be March again next year. They ended up with 8 in 8 different categories this time around. And that's one of the things we've talked about as well, is when we go down next year, after the qualification rounds, after the championship, we're going to spend a day or two
and help them not in a judging class, but in a competition class. Help them. We're talking with Chris Sherrill about coming down and going through a little bit of, hey, here's what I found, what I discovered works and what doesn't work,
right?
And give these guys, that leg up.
So one of the things that they are doing, and they're working on their March competition now. And one of the things that they're really focusing on is making the Caribbean Food Championships, making it be a final. In other words, there are going to be several different qualifying events ahead of time, because they want to make it more competitive as a way of getting in and making it a true championship round and not just a qualifying event. Again, that was one of their handicaps last year because of Maria and trying to get it. They didn't have enough. Well, they were still in recovery mode, so they didn't have enough teams, as many teams across the board as they'd like to in all the different categories. So they're really working hard to put the mechanics in place to have it being a true championships and to have those pre-events feed into it with qualifying rounds in different parts of the community. And they're also reaching out. They had one team from Nassau, the Bahamas, that were in. In fact, they're here competing in one of the, I can't remember which category, but so ultimately it will be a true Caribbean food championship and not just Puerto Rico. But this year it was just the Puerto Rican teams, except for the Bahamas team.
I love that, man. And we always talk about this on my show. It's the universal language of food. Everybody speaks it. You know what I'm saying? Like we all love that type of food. Do you find that there's more, I don't know, as far as barbecue goes, a little bit of a change? Is it a little different in Puerto Rico than it is in the States? Is there more live fire, less live fire? I'm always curious about that.
I think there are, one of the things that the guys in Puerto Rico are very much focused on is really learning. I mean, they are not afraid to try new methods and to learn all they can about the best techniques, the best way to cook, and whether it's adopting U.S. standards or Brazilian techniques or whatever. So I don't know about it being about the techniques that are different or in terms of live fire or not, but they certainly are out there trying different things and trying to come up with what works best for them in their environment. Now, one of the things that is true in the competition arena is it's all about community. It's all about fun. They have a lot of fun together, and they're very welcoming. That's one of the things that we found, and that really drew us from Alabama is we share a lot of those same commonalities. We are all about community. We're all about family. We're all about food. And we're all about fun. And so that's that camaraderie we share with our brothers from Puerto Rico.
Nice. And you know what, guys? I think that's why a lot of people are missing Alabama, because that is the attitude that everybody had down there. And we just, again, like you said, nothing disparaging towards Dallas, but sometimes I think to myself, man, I'd love to be back in Orange Beach, Alabama right now. Fellas, thank you so much for dropping by. I really do appreciate it. If Team Puerto Rico can pick up stuff from you guys, then they're gonna do real well, because you are a tour de force in this place. So thanks so much.
Thank you much. We appreciate it.
And there you have it. Great conversations with really great people. And I'm really glad that I'm able to bring that content to you guys. I want to thank you again for being here and checking us out. I hope you do like the new format. We're just going to kind of roll with it and see how it all goes. Maybe some contests we're incorporating over on the Facebook page and the Instagram page. So keep your eyes open for that. I want to thank all of our guests for being on today. Hiram Quintana, David and Danny over at Alabama Coasting. Those guys rock. Make sure you're checking their websites out. We're going to have links to everything that they're doing underneath this episode on pardonmyfork.com. Lots and lots of photos from the World Food Champs as well. We're doing a little bit of a photo dump over there, so go and check that out. And while you're there, follow the link over to Gem City Fine Foods, the best in gluten-free and nut-free, and in some cases even dairy-free desserts over at gemcityfinefoods.com. And Pfluger Bacon at pflugers.com, the best bacon I have had in a long time. And I am not just saying that. They are too good to be true, except that they are. So go and check them out. Pflugers.com. I want to thank GBX Custom Cookers. Check them out at facebook.com/GBX custom cookers. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank you for telling a friend. So once more, for Hiram, David, Danny, and Corianne, this is Andy, and we will see you next time.